Hello and welcome to this episode of T-Tech. On today's episode, we're going to talk about how to take a Linux distribution that is minimal, so in other words, it's meant for a server type system, and we're going to install that, and then we're going to be able to customize our Xorg configuration. So, in other words, we'll be able to make a lightweight Linux distribution, more suited potentially toward older computers, but the best benefit of it is it's perfect if you want full control over your Linux system, similar to how you have on the BSDs. But a lot of Linux distros nowadays come pre-configured with Xorg and a desktop environment. So in this way, we can actually choose the features we want on our graphics on Linux. So I am at debian.org here, and what you want to do is you want to go to their other downloads. You have to excuse me there. And under small installation image, go ahead and click that. And under tiny CDs and flexible USB sticks, under here, these are the CPU architectures that the Linux kernel, that Debian compiles the Linux kernel for now. There's x86 32-bit architectures, x86 64-bit, ARM64, ARM 32-bit, PowerPC, and other ones like that. I'm actually going to use x86 64-bit, but if your machine is older, the i386, you can use this to get it installed and still turn it into a useful desktop environment from there. So, like Linux Mint, for instance, they've moved over to not supporting 32-bit with a pre-built Xorg environment. Well, this is a little trick, not really a trick, just a way to do it so you can still have support for that system. So we're going to click into here, AMD64, click under NetBoot, and under NetBoot, we want to download the mini.iso. And after we get that downloaded, we're going to put it on a USB stick or a Pixie server, whatever means of installation you want to use, and go ahead and get it installed on your system. Alright, so another option, if you didn't want to use Debian, you can use Ubuntu Server to do the same type of thing. Now, the reason I want to also mention Ubuntu here is because it has more firmware for graphics devices like your GPUs and such. It has it built in a little bit. It's more available in Ubuntu than it is in Debian. In Debian, you have to add repos, especially with the mini ISO that we were using. This way, it gives you a little more flexibility if you want to use Ubuntu instead. And their support model is very good as well, but so is Debian's. But just pick the one you like the most, okay? So we're going to go to Products, we're going to go to Ubuntu Server, download Ubuntu Server. This obviously may change in the future. You don't need to pay for Ubuntu Pro or anything. I would just here download the LTS, the long-term support release. If you need to, you can download an older one for whatever reason. Maybe hardware support's different. This is a 6.8 kernel in there. System requirements, a gigahertz or better processor, a gig of RAM. These are things to take into account. They're very low nowadays, but keep in mind about the requirements before you go and install. And that gig of RAM, by the way, is a hard requirement. The installer will not work with anything less. So unless you do something like install it in a VM and then image the VM's disk and put it on your target system after it's been installed in a VM beforehand, just make sure you have more than a gig of RAM. So if you want to do that one, though, just download that and you'll be all set. Same thing, put it on a USB or however you want to do it and boot it up on your system. So the next part here, I'm going to focus specifically on Debian. Now I know you're probably thinking, well, is Ubuntu different for this? No, it actually isn't. They're both Debian based. So other than the weird, interesting things with the firmware availability inside of Debian, the commands I'm going to show you and the concepts are pretty much going to work the same. There is a part of the Debian installation that I want to show you so you don't accidentally end up installing a desktop environment that's not customized how we want. So we'll get into our machine next and install Debian. And once I get to that point, I will start back up and show you what to do from there. And then we'll go into talking about how to get everything else installed. Alright, real quick. So if you, once you run into this, it's the popularity contest portion of the Debian packages. This is basically an automatic survey that tells the developers what packages are being used the most on Debian, so they know how much resources of their servers to allocate toward compiling those packages for you. If you use packages that, basically if you want the packages that you use to be taken into account in the survey, say yes here, or no. It doesn't really matter either way, because even if something didn't become a package, you could still compile it from source, but that's a topic for another day. So from here, I'll just say no here, but just in case you were wondering once you hit this page, because Ubuntu does not have this, it automatically configures it for you. So, and here we go. This is the page we're talking about. If I leave this default, it is going to install the GNOME desktop environment, as well as Xorg on top of that and all of those things. Or we can choose any of these other environments. So even this alone gives us customization, but guess what? There's lots of window managers I'm sure you have not heard of, like Rat Poison or Fluxbox or OpenBox. There's many of them. VTWM or TWM is another good one. Those two. There's many you can choose from and get crazy with if you want more customization. So what I want to do though is I want to make sure that it's highlighted on GNOME, and you want to hit the spacebar. Same thing on Debian desktop environment. Deselect that. Keep standard system utilities unless you have something like not a lot of disk space or something like that. You'll want to keep these. These are things like less and other types of command line tools you're going to need. And depending on if you may want Xorg to be tunneled over SSH or something interesting like that. This is a very non-standard thing, but you could install an SSH server and tunnel Xorg over it, so you don't have to have a monitor hooked up to your main system. We're not going to do that here, but it is possible. So this is why I wanted to show this, because you get so much customizability with this. Way more than just downloading a pre-built distro. So we're going to hit continue here, highlight that with the tab key there, and then hit return. And we'll finish it. It needs to finish downloading these packages. Once that's done, I'm going to reboot, log in, and then we will install Xorg. And I will also talk about login managers as well to round out the video. Okay, as well, once you get to the bootloader screen, if you want to install it on a different disk, like if you had 2 hard drives in the system and you want to use one for storage and one for the operating system, you would enter the device manually or select it here. In this case, I'm going to select the VM's hard disk here. Alright, so now we're on our Debian system, and I'm going to go ahead and log in as our normal user we created during the installation. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice we don't actually have sudo or anything. On Ubuntu, they disable the root account, so that's going to be another difference here. Anytime you see me use the apt-get install or any commands where we need root to do them, make sure if you're on Ubuntu following this that you do sudo, like apt-get update for instance. Alright, but on Debian, like we are here, we're going to use su for substitute user or super user, whichever one it is, and then we're going to type our password. Now we're root. Let's do an apt-get update real quick, and we're going to do an apt-get install. While we're at it too, if you do lspci -k to see the kernel module, if you do a pipe that to grep for VGA, you'll be able to see your adapters. This is a VM in this case, but that would be like your Intel HD 600 graphics or your RX 5700 XT AMD GPU or something like that. But that gives you a great indication if Linux has a driver for it. It needs to have a driver for it to begin with, for just, this is called the frame buffer driver, to display the console for you. And then on top of that, Xorg will actually install its own driver to interact with it and be able to draw stuff on the screen. So we're going to do apt-get install Xorg, and in my case I'm going to install Fluxbox and rat poison. Okay, and then we're going to say yes to this, and I'm going to pause the video and I will be back in 1 second once this finishes. Okay, now that the installation is finished, let's exit back to our normal user. Make sure though that you're in your home directory for the user, and we are. I'm going to make a file in my home directory called .exinetRC, so it's a hidden file, and we're going to go ahead and open that file. And what we're going to put in here is the window manager that we want to start when we use the startx command. Okay, this is the way to do it if you don't want to use a login manager like GDM or Slim or something like that. This is just to have the most customization of the system. Now you want to put the full path rather to the executable. So I'm going to put user bin rat poison in here. Now every window manager has its own way of configuring it, different syntax and other things like that. That actually reminded me, another good window manager is called Awesome, and you can install it like this as well. It's worth mentioning in here because you get a lot of customization, and that's another good one you can use. But at any rate, any of these you install, you have to find out where they are. So if I want to know, you do where is to search your path, and mine is in user bin rat poison. Same thing with Fluxbox. And what I want to do also in my home directory before we start this is do another hidden file called rat poison rc. Okay, we're going to make this file, and this is only rat poison specific. It doesn't work for Fluxbox, again, because that's a different configuration. We're going to bind the C key there to exec xterm with a foreground color of green and a background color of black. Alright, and you can also do the font. I don't know if Linux actually has the same fonts as Windows does. It may not. We'll find out real quick. If I do where is xterm, double check that it is in the path. And we're going to try start X. Most things with Xorg on Linux automatically configure. There isn't any other configuration needed. So now we are in rat poison. So we're going to do Control T, Shift, question mark. And these are my bindings. And if we go down to this binding, you can see a lowercase c after we hit the control character, Control T, will exec what I put in my .ratpoisonrc file. So if we go Control T, C, oops, let's actually go ahead, do Control T, exclamation point, and let's try kill all Xorg and see if it does anything. Alright, so we got it straightened around here. So if you are stuck like that and you're in rat poison and you cannot open a shell, do Control T, and then that's what you'll see when you've selected the controller, right? The key combination. And do Shift, exclamation point, and then it's going to type a shell with a command it's going to give it. We're going to give it xterm. That starts up a shell, and then from there you're able to look for the PID of Xorg, the process ID. It's the second column after the username. And then you want to kill, and then 3808. You can also install the kill all command that just searches for the PID automatically. But what happened is, my ratpoisonrc, you actually don't need the quotes. So that's all you need to make the command execute. Rat Poison can execute shell scripts. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it's executable. You can, once you add like Firefox, for instance, let's install that real quick. Again, don't forget there is no sudo, so you may want to install this if you're following along. Apt-get install Firefox. Okay, maybe not. Let's go old school here and install links, and then we're gonna go and Poison RC. Let's bind B for browser to the links command, and then we start X, and now we should be able to do Control T B. Maybe not. No, probably not, because I forgot to tell it to execute it with xterm, I believe. Let's try it like that and see if it works. Okay. Oh my. Okay, it did open, actually. Open on the terminal. Okay, I fell down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I'm back. So what we're going to do here, instead of that, if you want to run links, you can open up a terminal with a Control-C and then run it from the terminal. I installed Firefox ESR, the extended support release, so that's what I put in my Rat Poison RC file. And if we start X and I do Control-T B, it launches Firefox for us, okay? And mind you, this is all running as Firefox ESR is running as my normal TTEC user. Alright, so is Xorg and everything. And that is actually why I prefer to use StartX instead of using a login manager, because it starts on boot as the root user, most times anyway, and then it will run everything with root privileges inside of Xorg. But that is what I'm doing to run a browser in this. If I want to run links, I opened up my terminal and I can run links like normal, right from my window manager. So from there, though, I still would like to talk about how we change window managers if we want to. It's very simple to do that. Instead of user bin rat poison in here, I'm going to put user bin fluxbox in here. Save that, hit start X, and now we have fluxbox in here for us to use. And you have all the interesting things that it has. It has workspaces here. If we click this, up to 4 of them. You can add more in the configuration file. But this is fluxbox. And if we exit, it just will exit right out. Now the last thing I want to show is using a login manager. To start X with a login manager is fairly simple. We just will want to remove our xinetRC file in our home directory, okay? And then we're going to do, let's see, apt-get install slim in this case is the one I picked. And then once we run that, let's go ahead and the quickest way to show you is to simply reboot the system. Alright, this is what comes up after we reboot. We're going to enter our username and password. And in this case, it launched Fluxbox. But some window managers really give you customizability. That one, you hit F1 to select different sessions. GDM can give you a menu to choose them. Many different desktop environments usually come coupled with their window managers. They're login managers, I mean. So anyway, from here, instead of that, we were able to have our system start from a login manager. And now you will see, though, Xorg is running as root. So that's why I prefer the start X command, but that's just me. But the same things apply. You can still run stuff from a shell. This is the easiest way to do it, and then you have the same access. So with all of that, though, that is how we run all this. And if you want to uninstall the window manager or anything you installed and experiment with something else, all you have to do is do apt-get --purge, which will remove the configuration files, and then you can remove Firefox, for instance, rat poison, or your login manager. And then in that case, when you reboot, you would just make your .xinit file again and start X like normal. But with all of that, I do hope you found this video helpful and informative, and it helps you in creating your own custom Linux distro with your choice of desktop environment instead of having the choice of only a few predefined ones. And I hope it also allows you to bring older computers back to life a little better and make them work a little longer. So with all that, it's been Tyler with T-Tech. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for viewing. Have a very nice day.